There is a kind of cold that no amount of down feathers can keep out. It's a cold that isn't just about the loss of heat. It's the feeling of being watched. In the mountaineering community, there is an old saying, "If the mountain decides to keep you, even the clouds will turn into walls." On November 14th, 2019, a search and rescue team in the Sierra Nevada received a deeply disturbing distress call. The call lasted only 7 seconds. It was mostly the roar of the wind and the sound of a woman screaming in pure terror. But just before the line went dead, audio analysts isolated a strange sound in the background. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't an animal. It sounded like dozens of people whispering frantically in the snow. I am the Watcher. Welcome to Paws Truth. Today, we aren't just telling a survival story. We are telling a story about boundaries and what happens when you cross into places where humans aren't meant to go. Our protagonist is Sarah, 34 years old, a senior programmer from San Francisco. Like so many others, she didn't go to the mountains to conquer a peak. She went to escape her burnout at work, to escape the wreckage of a bad breakup. Her only companion on this trip was Max, a 4-year-old golden retriever. To Sarah, Max was never just a pet. During the years Sarah struggled with severe anxiety, Max was her anchor. One of Sarah's friends once joked, "Look at Max's eyes. He doesn't think he's a dog. He thinks he's Sarah's bodyguard." That morning, the sky was a fake, perfect blue. The forecast read, "Clear, 0% chance of snow." Sarah chose a less traveled path known as Devil's Backbone. It's a beautiful trail, but it has one specific feature. It sits right at the convergence of 2 major wind tunnels. They set off. The first 2 hours were perfect. Sunlight filtered through the trees. Everything was calm. But around 1:30 p.m., things started to feel wrong. The weather hadn't changed yet, but Max had. This was a dog who usually went crazy over squirrels. But suddenly, he stopped dead in his tracks. He stared intensely at a grove of birch trees to their left. There was nothing there, just thick snow and dry trunks. But a low, guttural growl rolled in Max's throat, and the fur along his spine stood up like needles. Sarah thought it was a bear. She immediately pulled out her bear spray and shouted at the trees, "Hey, bear!" Her answer was a sudden, suffocating silence. In that instant, every bird call, every insect hum, every sign of life in the forest simply vanished. It was as if someone had hit the mute button on the world. Hikers often say that in the mountains, a blizzard doesn't arrive. It drops. At 2 p.m., the temperature plummeted 15 degrees Celsius in 10 minutes. That perfect blue sky was instantly swallowed by gray clouds. This is what the locals call a ghost storm. Sarah made the right call. She decided to turn back immediately. But when she turned around, the trail was gone. The snow was falling so fast and so hard that it had erased their footprints in seconds. Her GPS spun wildly in circles, unable to find a signal. And that is when, through the whiteout, she saw them. At the edge of the tree line, less than 50 meters away, she saw patches of white mist moving. At first, Sarah thought it was just snow dust kicked up by the wind. But when she squinted, she realized the mist had shape. They looked like humanoids with elongated limbs. No faces, just blurry, shifting outlines. And the most terrifying part? The wind was blowing to the right, but these things were drifting to the left, against the wind. According to local indigenous legends, these are The White Whisperers. They aren't ghosts. They are the malicious intent of hypothermia given form. They mimic human shapes to lure lost travelers toward the cliffs. Sarah panicked. She grabbed Max's collar and ran blindly through the snow. Fear made her commit the cardinal sin of mountaineering. She ran without looking. Night fell. The temperature dropped below -20. This is the tipping point of death. Injury, hypothermia, terror. Sarah's consciousness began to drift. She was entering the most dangerous stage of freezing, a phenomenon known as paradoxical undressing. When the brain's heat regulation center fails, a freezing person stops feeling cold and starts hallucinating that they are burning up. Sarah felt warm, wonderfully warm, like she was lying in a hot bath at home. She started to unzip her jacket. She wanted to take off her gloves. She just wanted to sleep. The white shadows had moved closer now. They didn't make a sound, yet inside Sarah's head, she heard the voices of 1,000 people whispering, "Sleep. Just sleep." But every time her eyes began to close, a sharp pain jolted her awake. It was Max. Max was biting her sleeve. He was licking her face with his rough tongue, pawing at her, scratching her cheek. The dog was using pain to keep her alive. Max didn't lie down to keep warm that night. Through Sarah's blurry vision, she saw Max acting like a madman. He was charging at the empty air, snapping, snarling, barking ferociously at the void. To us, it would look like he was fighting the wind. But in Max's eyes, he was holding back a legion of monsters trying to take his human. His golden fur was matted with ice. With every bark, a cloud of steam burst from his mouth. He was using his own body heat, his own rage, to build a wall. A barrier that crossed species. As long as he stood, the shadows could not pass. At 4 a.m., the rescue helicopter finally picked up a faint signal. The operator of the thermal imaging camera later wrote in his report, "This is highly unusual. Usually, in those temperatures, a victim's heat signature is weak, like a dying candle. But the screen showed something else. Next to Sarah, there was a massive, raging ball of red heat. It was Max. Because of his intense physical combat all night long, Max's body temperature remained critically high. That heat radiated onto Sarah, preserving the last spark of her life. When the rescue team rappelled down to the ground, they saw a scene that chilled them to the bone. The snow around Sarah was churned up, covered in Max's frantic paw prints, evidence of a desperate battle. But just outside that circle of paw prints was a ring of perfectly neat, smooth indentations. Not human, not animal, just hollow spaces in the snow. It looked as if dozens of things had stood there all night, surrounding them, but never daring to cross the line Max had drawn. Sarah lost 2 toes to frostbite, but she survived. Max slept at the vet clinic for 3 days straight. The doctor said his muscles had dissolved from overexertion, the kind of damage you usually see after running 2 back-to-back marathons. We often say that dogs are man's best friend. But on nights like that, on the edge of the abyss, they are not just friends. They are guardians. They are the last line of defense between us and the dark. They see what we cannot see, and they choose to fight for us. So, the next time your dog barks at an empty corner in the room, don't be so quick to scold him. Maybe, just maybe, he is standing between you and something you don't want to meet. I am the Watcher. Thank you for listening to Paws Truth. May your night be safe, and remember, hug your guardian.